Yeah. And the thing about Kentucky is the last couple of years when they've made the next step forward, they've invested in the program. And when it was time to get an offensive coordinator, they didn't cut corners.
Right.
They went and hired two guys who were who were working for winning NFL teams. One was with the Rams. He left and went back to the Rams, Liam Cohen, after last year. And then this year they got a guy off the 49ers. So, I mean, it just shows you the difference in the level of commitments among programs, that when it's time to fix your staff, you fix your staff.
Well, that's they're at a basketball school, unfortunately. So, but yeah.
There's a lesson to be learned there. We can remember. I remember when Indiana and Kentucky used to play. The Indiana won their share of the games when Mallory was the coach, and even a few years afterwards. And once Rich Brooks came to Kentucky, he changed the mindset there. Of this is an SEC program. You either got to invest more money in this and get serious about it, and quit having a defeatist attitude, and say, you're going to be as good as you can be, or quit doing it. And I mean, I think Indiana can learn a lesson from that. You can sit here and wring your hands about Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan all you want to, but that's the reality of the Big Ten. And you have to get serious about football and make a bigger and more visible commitment to it, and get in there and slug it out with those guys. I mean, it's not going to be easy. Huh?
Minnesota. Look at Minnesota.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Not going to be easy. There's no reason that Indiana shouldn't be able to be as good as Wisconsin. I mean, Wisconsin has no recruiting base in the state of Wisconsin. I mean, what do they have? I mean, but that's because Barry Alvarez changed the mindset there, and he made it a priority. And that's what Indiana needs to do at some point. I keep waiting for it to happen. And Kevin Wilson, I think, changed the mindset at one point a little bit, but it needs to keep evolving and keep changing, because it shouldn't be a program that, goes into Cincinnati and gets beat like that. It shouldn't be.
Well, to me, Indiana has to, and I mean has to, they have to put a premium on linemen, offensive linemen specifically going forward. And if that is not a premium for this program, they don't have a chance. I don't care who you bring in.
We've known that, though, for 2 or 3 years, and it hasn't changed. I mean, we've known the offensive line hasn't been good for 2 or 3 years. And you looked at the team coming into this season, and they brought in all these dudes out of the portal, all the different positions. But the only guy they brought in on the offensive line was the D2 kid from Texas. I mean, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
No one does. That's the thing.
I think there's going to need to be a change in the offseason as to who runs the offensive line is going to be my guess.
Well, that was said last year. That was said last year, though.
Okay. What was your take? Go ahead, Dustin.
Well, I was just going to say, it's getting like to me, this offensive line might be worse than it was last year. And you have an experienced, and I know they lost Matthew Bedford. I understand that. But how do you have first of all, how have you not built up any depth in the Big Ten on the offensive line? This isn't like it's a 1-year thing where, we're not going to be very good on the offensive line this year, but next year we should have more depth. It's a continual theme. The other thing is nobody on the offensive line is any good. So why are you not rotating more to at least keep guys fresh? I don't understand. I don't understand this mindset. What I will say, though, I give Walt Bell a ton of credit because he has schemed to get Indiana to 3-1, put some points on the board. And coming into this season, we knew Indiana's offensive line was not going to be good. So they've got to fix that. But I've been far more concerned because we thought the secondary was supposed to be good. We thought the defense was going to be the strength. And they have looked atrocious, in my opinion, through 4 games.
Yeah, the corners have been beaten more than they should for, what the talent level is considered to be. But I guess I wanted to know, what was your guys' take on, people made a big deal of it at the press conference on Monday. I think it was Zach Osterman asked the question of Walt Bell about the offensive line. And he kind of paused before he answered it to try and figure what's the best way the right way for me to answer this. And then he said it was a great question. And a lot of people interpret it as, the pause was like, yeah, I'm with you, but I can't say what I really want to say. Did you guys see it that way?
Yes.
There's no other way to see it. I mean, I think that the question came, and when you don't instantly have that answer that is not going to be, that's going to be PC, you have to pause for a second, and he did just that. But there's not a lot else he can do, because he's at least maybe that tells me, but maybe he's a guy that is not going to BS you about stuff. That BSing is not the first thing that comes to his mind, and I like that. And I don't have a problem with his play calling this year. I think he's done everything he can do with what he has. As a matter of fact, I don't know that they'd be where they are without some of the play calling. But
can you imagine trying to call plays when you can't call any run plays?
No kidding.
The not being able to run in the red zone, especially, is killing them. They've thrown for more pass attempts than any team in the United States, any college team in the country, because they cannot run the ball. I mean, Connor Bazelak is his arm going to hold out? This is only the 5th game coming up. He's got 7 more games in that shoulder. That's like running a guy out, a starting pitcher out, and running him 9 innings every game.
I'm far less concerned about his arm than I am the rest of his body, because his legs, everything, like a concussion.
13 hits.
That's what I said when we talked with Don Fisher. I said I'm not even being sarcastic in that it was an accomplishment for him to finish the game, like to not have to go out. He got hit so much in that game, and Michael Penix would have been done. Like, his season would be over at this point to take that many hits. It's unacceptable.
Here's the thing. You know it. I know it. Fish knows it. Everybody who watches knows it. How can it go on? I mean, this isn't like something that just popped up the last 2 weeks. This has been going on for over a year. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I don't know why it hasn't been addressed, because if it's not changed, it won't change. So I don't understand why this season it wasn't changed before the season, to be honest with you, because it's just like me eating potato chips and candy bars every day, and then they're complaining about my weight going up. I'm like, until I stop, it's going to continue to go up.
Here's what I wonder, and this would be a talent evaluation. We can agree that the Indiana defensive line isn't very good either, right? Like, I don't think they're getting as much pressure as they should. I wonder if those 2 units are so bad that they make each other look good in spring practice, fall camp. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's a talent evaluation problem, which is a whole other issue.
Talent drop off. I mean, Indiana has always they put guys in the league on the offensive line. I mean, this is not Alabama or Ohio State.
Yeah, Wilson had Spriggs and Feeney, and
even in the last few years there was a couple guys, but they had more talent on the defensive line last year for certain. Yes. But there is a talent drop off on both sides for Indiana. I mean, I think they're at a MAC talent level right now. And that's scary, thinking you've got 7 more games to play.
I'm just giving my theory here. I've got no evidence. None of us are there behind the scenes and see what's going on. But from my seat, I think Indiana also took a hit 3 or 4 years ago when the strength and conditioning coaches left and went to Alabama. Yeah. That was a huge hit to the IU program. Those dudes were good. IU looked more athletic, stronger, healthier back when those guys were here. And since they've gone, there's been a drop off. That's just my opinion.
That's a good point.
Yeah, no doubt. And if those guys weren't so important, Alabama would not have brought in just one, brought in both of those guys.
Right.
Just came in and took both of them. And Indiana did a good job. They replaced him with the guy from the New York Giants,
Aaron Wellman. Yeah.
But I don't know.
But here's the difference:
talent drop off or something, because there is a direct difference on those lines.
But here's the difference. I'm going to talk about again, because I see all these 3 programs the most. At Kentucky, they've got a guy on their staff named Vince Morrow, who's a tight ends coach, and also he's assistant to the head coach, and he's their top recruiting guy. and he's responsible for a lot of the top recruits they got. And Michigan went after him, and it's like, no, you're not getting him. They jacked his salary up to more than what Michigan was willing to pay him, and he didn't go. If you're ever going to be serious about getting better at football, you have to invest in the program and do those kinds of things to show that you're serious. You can't constantly, Kalen DeBoer's here for 1 year, he does well, and he's out of here as fast as he can be. You're not ever going to have any sustained success if anytime you have somebody on your staff who's really good, you lose them at the first chance they get.
Right.
And not only that, you replace them. Your replacement of them is a tremendous drop off.
Right. And the coaches who stay are guys who other schools don't want to go after.
Exactly.
It's not good. I mean, it has to come from the very top of saying, this is Big Ten football. The world is evolving. Football is really important to create revenue and fill the stains and get to bowl games and be competitive. What has to be done to get it up to that next level? There's no reason Indiana can't be what Minnesota is, what Wisconsin is, what Purdue is, Maryland, whatever. They need to be in that mix. I'm not some Pollyanna who thinks they can become, Ohio State or Penn State or Michigan, but they ought to be able to be in that next tier. They shouldn't be in a situation where they go into some of these Big Ten games and you say they got no shot.
Right.
Well, I mean, Tom is loyal. Tom Allen, he's a very loyal person, and that is great because a lot of people aren't sometimes. But I think his loyalty can go to a fault, and I don't know if it clouds what he should see. But I think that sometimes comes up because the coaching industry. It's a hard industry, and nobody wants to fire anybody, and nobody wants to see people get fired. But that's part of the job. I mean, especially in coaching, man, there's probably not a coach alive that hasn't been fired. But that has to happen, unfortunately. And I think Indiana, you talk about making a commitment. Tom Allen had to pay part of Nick Sheridan's buyout.
Yeah.
So
if that's indeed true, I've read that too. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's certainly been talked about. So yeah, that should never happen.
I wonder if that's the reason why the offensive line coach hasn't been changed, or if there hasn't been a change there.
I guarantee you that it's not happening at Minnesota or some of these other schools. It's not.
No. Well, you look at Nebraska. They could have waited 2.5 stinking weeks to save $7.5 million. Nope, didn't. But that still boggles my mind that they didn't do that, because that would have been this Saturday. But yeah, that didn't happen.